Good afternoon and welcome to Voices for Change, a movement against gun violence, the 5th annual Community Advocacy and Violence Prevention Summit. Sponsored by the Loyola Stands Against Gun Violence Committee. My name is Lucia Garcia, Director of Student Affairs and Registration for the Parkinson School of Health Sciences and Public Health and Chair of the Loyola Stands Against Gun Violence Committee. And it is my privilege to welcome you here today. The 2024 theme of National Public Health Week is protecting, connecting, and thriving. We are all public health. In this pivotal moment during National Public Health Week, today, Loyola University Chicago gathers not merely as individuals, but as a united force against the pervasive threats of gun violence. We come together to celebrate the power of prevention, to advocate for healthy and equitable policies, and to champion the role of a robust public health system. Today's summit, a cornerstone event of the Parkinson School and National Public Health Week, marks a significant milestone as we convene for the first time at Lakeshore campus. As a university with a mission centered on social justice, we are entrusted with the duty to champion, educate, and take action to ensure the safety of both our communities and our students. I'm heartened to see a diverse group of leaders, activists, families, students, and allies today, in person and joining us via webinar, each bringing their unique perspective and unwavering commitment to our shared cause. Our Loyola Stands Committee is a testament to the power of collective action comprised of an interprofessional group of impassioned individuals from across our campuses and neighboring communities. To each member, I extend heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering dedication to this cause. As we convene for this summit, let us not confine our collaboration to this singular event, but embrace the opportunity to extend our work beyond these walls, engaging in ongoing dialogue, advocacy, and action. Today, we are particularly honored to welcome a steadfast supporter of Loyola, U.S. Representative Jan Schakowsky, to today's summit. Your presence today reaffirms our shared commitment to effecting meaningful change. Together, let us raise our voices, amplify our message, and stand firm in the resolve to create a future free from the shadow of gun violence. Thank you.
I am so happy to be with all of you today. Thank you so much to all of the wonderful organizers of this fantastic event. I wanted to say just a special shout out to Zach Wilder, who actually worked one summer in my office, and to all of those of you who are here today. This is so important. And your voices are especially important. I'm excited that I am here with leaders. Now where'd I put your name? X Gonzalez, who was one of the founders of March for Our Lives, an incredible organization that was founded on the heels of violence in Florida, which you can talk to more, or are you there? Okay. They can talk to more about you. I'm also a good friend of David Hogg, who is one of the founders also. And I want to also give a shout out to my colleague in the House of Representatives, Max Frost, who at the age of 25, which is the first time you're legal to run for the Congress of the United States, ran and is now really leading the way on addressing gun violence. And isn't it time? So we are all gathered here today because you all of us together can make a difference. You know, this is unique to the United States of America. About 49,000, 48,000, depends on the year. Americans die at the hands of guns. And now in the United States of America, the number one cause of death of school-age children, of school-age people, is at the hand of guns. We're not talking about health. We're not talking about car accidents. It is guns. And that is not true anywhere else in the world. And let's face it, sometimes my colleagues in Congress say, well, you know, it's a mental health problem. You know what? In every country, there are people with mental health issues that have to be addressed, but they are not killing each other with guns. And I want to tell you that outside this room, most Americans agree that the time has come that we rein in the strength of the gun manufacturers, of all the people that are profiting off of the sale of guns, the proliferation of guns. Most people actually agree with us. Some 80+% of people think we should have universal background checks. Isn't that simple enough? That we ought to be able to have safe storage, you know, so that we require that people who have guns in their homes put them in places that are not going to be taken by children often or others. That safe storage is very important. And most Americans think that we should have a ban on assault weapons, weapons of war, weapons to kill. This is not about going out and, you know, legally doing, going after animals, which I'm not a big on either, but, you know, using guns for hunting. No. These weapons of mass destruction should not be with us. So we have an opportunity now, and you have an opportunity. And I want to say to all the young people who are here, your voices are so important. And make no mistake, your voices are heard in the halls of Congress. We were able finally, after 3 decades, to get what I would say is a pretty modest bill to limit gun violence. We finally were able to get somewhat of a bipartisan agreement, but we have a long way to go. And those of us, all of us, so many of us in this country who are just sick of our children being afraid to go to school, the kind of anxiety that we are seeing now, a lot of that is due to the fear of gun violence, because, you know, there is no safe place anymore. It is happening all over the country. Now, we talk about gun violence, and some of it is certainly the mass shootings that happen too often. But I also want to mention we call it the everyday shootings, the availability of guns. We read about it mostly every Sunday, what happened in the city of Chicago and other places, that there was a party. There were young people getting together. Some of them had a fight. Why do they have such access to guns? And finally, let me just say, the state of Illinois has very strong laws. We have good laws to prevent gun violence, but every state around us does not. So you can get into your car, drive across the border, This is the United States, so we don't stop people at the border. People can, especially in Indiana, on a nice Sunday, you can go out there to a gun sale. You can open up the trunk of your car, you can fill it up, drive across the border, sell it, whatever. And now most of the violence that happens in Chicago comes from guns that are bought out of the state of Illinois. The point is, there has to be national legislation. And so we absolutely can do this. That is my final message, that we can mobilize the vast majority of Americans. We can amplify the voice of young people. We can amplify the voice of everybody who wants a safe place for our families, for our children, and to end the kind of fear that we have. So I like to say, when we fight, we win. Say it with me. When we fight, come on, when we fight, one more time, louder. When we fight, we can do this. Let's get going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Schakowsky. I would now like to invite forward Dr. Cynthia Stewart, Parkinson Director of Experiential Learning, for our blessing.
Good evening. Thank you very much to the committee, to the students. I'm really just proud of them and just all of you all just being here tonight. So I am going to read to you a litany that was written by a colleague of mine who is now the Dean of Vanderbilt Divinity. Her name is Dr. Yolanda Pierce. She wrote this litany after the killing of George Floyd, and is apropos for even today. So just listen as I go through this litany. Let us not rush to the language of healing before understanding the fullness of the injury and the depth of the wound. Let us not rush to offer a Band-Aid when the gaping wound requires surgery and complete reconstruction. Let us not offer false equivalencies, thereby diminishing the particular pain being felt in a particular circumstance in a particular historical moment. Let us not speak of reconciliation without speaking of reparations and restoration, or how we can repair the breach and how we can restore the loss. Let us not rush past the loss of the many mothers' children, the fathers' children, or even the children of the aunties, the godmothers, the elders, the friends, because they were someone's beloved child. Let us not value property over people. Let us not protect material objects while human lives hang in the balance. Let us not value a false peace over a righteous injustice. Let us not be afraid to sit with the ugliness, the messiness, and the pain that is life and community together. Let us not offer cliches to the grieving, those whose hearts have been and are still being torn asunder. Instead, let us mourn Black and brown men and women, those killed extrajudiciously every 28 hours. Let us lament the loss of a teenager dead at the hands of a police officer who described him or her as a demon. Let us weep at the criminal justice system, which is neither blind nor just. Let us call for the mourning men and the wailing women, those willing to render their garments of privilege and ease and sit in the ashes of this nation's original sin. Let us be silent when we don't know what to say. Let us be humble and listen to the pain, to the rage, and to the grief pouring from the lips of our neighbors and friends. Let us decrease so that our brothers and sisters who live on the underside of history may increase. Let us pray with our eyes and our feet firmly planted on the ground. Let us listen to the suffering of those who have not been heard. Creator, in your mercy, show us our own complicity in injustice. Convict us for our indifference. Forgive us when we have remained silent. Equip us with a zeal for righteousness. Never let us grow accustomed or acclimated to unrighteousness. In the words of Reverend Martin Luther King, I end by saying, ever-present Creator, you called us to be in relationship with one another and promised to dwell wherever 2 or 3 are gathered. In our community, we are many different people. We come from many different places, have many different cultures. We ask that you open our hearts, that we may be bold in finding the riches of inclusion and the treasures of diversity among us. We pray this in our faith.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zach Wilder. I'm a Master of Public Health student here at Loyola, and I am a graduate fellow with the Loyola Stands Against Gun Violence Committee. Now, as we move into our presentations for the day, I'd like to just make a few quick announcements. We are aware that you may be in and out throughout the course of this event. Restrooms and water fountains are located on the second floor, just outside. Elevators are also accessible in the lobby. Our speakers today will be sharing personal, sometimes traumatic experiences. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to them for their openness in sharing their perspectives. Recognizing the seriousness and sensitivity surrounding the topic of gun violence, we want to emphasize the importance of prioritizing your emotional well-being during this event. Your mental health is paramount. Should you feel the need, please know that you are both welcome and encouraged to step away for a moment of respite. Additionally, it is important to note that our speakers have been given the freedom to share their personal views. These views are their own and may or may not reflect the views of other participants or the university. Each presentation and speaker we hear from today will conclude with a Q&A session. We welcome and highly encourage guests to participate by asking our presenters questions that are important to you. At the back of your program, you will notice a space to write down any notes that you may have. During these Q&A sections, our facilitators will be walking around with a microphone. You can simply raise your hand and a member will come to you so you can ask your question to the speaker. If your questions are not answered today, no worries. At the end of the summit, we'll be sharing a brief evaluation. There you will have the option to submit any additional questions. And we will do our best to get answers from the speakers and share them with you in the coming days. At the close of today's event, we invite you to join us for dinner and the exhibitor resource fair in the lobby, which includes organizations working to prevent gun violence. Now, without further delay, it is my honor to welcome our keynote speaker, X Gonzalez. Hi, Jalen. Born and raised in Parkland, Florida, X Gonzalez is a survivor of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, where X became a leading voice in the gun violence prevention movement with their powerful speech, "We Call BS." In 2018, X gave another iconic speech, this one containing over 6 minutes of silence at the March for Our Lives protest in Washington, D.C. It was the largest student-led demonstration in American history with about 1 million protesters in attendance. The actions of X and their classmates led to 278 stricter gun laws being put in place all over the country. The banning of bump stocks, the rise of red flag laws, countless voter registrations, and a blueprint for activism and protesting for Gen Z. We are honored to welcome X Gonzalez as our keynote speaker. Let me get to you. We got a little traffic jam, sorry. After you, I'll get out of your way.
Sorry.
Get out of your way too. So.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming out today. I really appreciate it. I almost forgot to take off my mask. My name is X Gonzalez. You may know me as Emma Gonzalez, and as Jan very sweetly pointed out earlier, I do use they, them pronouns. So I realized when I was going through, when, the pandemic was going on, I realized I wasn't really participating with femininity on a daily basis anymore. So I was like, maybe I should wonder why I don't want to. And so I did some internal thinking and stuff, and I discovered that I do identify as non-binary, and I prefer to use they, them pronouns, and that I wanted to change my name from Emma to X, but colloquially, not legally, because my mom gave me that name. I love my mom. So once again, this is probably who you know me as. I gave a lot of speeches, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've been able to have in terms of speaking and reaching out to people across the country. When my cohorts and I started March for Our Lives, we were still seniors in high school, and we kind of skipped a lot of the end of the year in order to, continue working on this. But I mean, who wanted to go back to school after that anyways? Sorry. I was working alongside my fellow students, my friends, basically, and we were working to get the organization off the ground. And during the summer, after graduation, we went on a tour around the country to visit places all over the country that had been affected by gun violence, but also to places that were very important political conversations, because it was 2018. We were getting ready for the election, the midterm election. And that year we did actually see a historic rise in youth voter turnout. I don't want to take credit for that, but we did do a lot, and we went to a lot of places, and I'm very grateful for all the people that I was able to meet all over the country. And let me tell you, it is exactly true what has been said here before. 97% of Americans are in favor of strict background checks and stricter gun laws. It's really not a very complicated conversation to have. If anybody is interested in being contrarian about it, it typically comes from a place of, well, I'm right and you're wrong, as opposed to, I do believe that guns should be in the hands of everybody. And that is what we found out on the tour. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the identity change from Emma to X. And I put a little baby picture in there because I thought that might make some people happy. But yeah, when I was growing up, I didn't really think about gender all that much. And then obviously, as I became a public figure, people were saying about how I was an inspiring young woman, or she is very inspiring. And I was like, why does this strike a discordant node in me? I don't understand. And then I started to understand that it was because I don't really, and these are just my personal views, I don't really believe in gender. I don't really think that gender as a binary fits me. I don't think it fits most people, and most people just don't know. But I was very fortunate to go to school at New College of Florida, where there has been a thriving trans community for ever since it started, actually, in 1960, when it officially became its own college. But recently, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has been cracking down on New College and putting his friends in charge in the board member positions, and has fired the president, hired a new president without any interview or anybody else on the board even reading his resume, gave him a double in pay, to the previous female president's pay. And they are forcing sports teams onto the school where there never were sports teams. So there's tons of athletes coming in with scholarships where there never were before. So it was a very queer and trans-friendly school that was very liberal and open-minded and very excited about having a thriving DEI program that has now been shut down, destroyed. And a lot of the professors that moved to New College to get tenure had to leave, and all their children who just got settled in school had to leave too. So that's like 2% of how horrible it's all been. So gratefully, I have, upon graduating New College in 2022 with my master's in liberal arts, I moved to Orlando to live a happier life, just trying to breathe and recover from all the trauma of being an activist and all the trauma from violence and stuff. And I can happily say that I am in a very good mental place in comparison to where I have been in the past. And I'm so incredibly happy to be here. And I'm so grateful that all of y'all have showed up. This is such a wonderful room of people. My goodness gracious. There's a little pictures of New College to emphasize how there are protests often and is a beautiful campus and stuff. So, and that's me in the tree. There's a banyan tree on campus that has been there growing for decades, and students through the years have been shaping the way that it's growing. So there's a staircase inside of it. It's really cool. I also have been reconnecting with art and stuff as I get to understand myself again. I have, in the art that I've been doing, I've been exploring healing from trauma. I've also been exploring with saying the things that I've wanted to say that were not exactly appreciated when I was as much of a public figure as I was at the time. I have officially deleted my Twitter at this point because I don't think that Twitter should exist anymore at this point as well. Also, that's my name. That's my name. Anyways, but yeah, so just wanted to put that out there. But yes, I am so incredibly grateful for all of y'all being here and for bringing your voices to the conversation about gun violence prevention, because as has been mentioned, there's not a place in this country that hasn't been touched by gun violence. There's not a moment in the day that somebody doesn't think about the impact of gun violence or experience it. And there are incredibly simple solutions at hand. And the people who are in charge of putting those solutions into practice are being paid by gun manufacturers not to make those changes, not to make those solutions happen. And as we saw, when people bring their voices together, laws get passed. When people make their opinions known, make their political sentiments heard by politicians are faced with unbelievable pressure that they cannot deny, that they cannot fight, that they have to sway to. Because how do you tell 1 million people on your doorstep, no, we will not be passing safer gun laws? That would be terrible for my bankroll. You know, you can't admit that. So when we get the opportunity to push and embarrass legislators who deserve to be pushed and embarrassed, it is definitely on us to do that. It is also on us, as Zach mentioned, to be careful with ourselves and to be reflecting within ourselves during doing this work is very hard, and it has a big impact on our bodies and our minds over time. So it's important to take breaks when we need to, take breaths when we need to, drink water every day. Drink water every day. Some people in college who are like, I only drink Coke. How are you alive? Anyways, so that's Coca-Cola, by the way. I hope that was clear. College can be a strange place for some people. But anyways, I'm very grateful for the amount of time that I have had, that I've been able to reflect on all of the things that I have done, because when I was doing them, I didn't really comprehend the gravity of the situation. It just felt like this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. And as somebody who has been to Congress, been in the halls of Congress, has talked to Congress people, we can all do this. It's very, very simple, not complicated, but it does take a lot of time and energy out of what you normally do in your day-to-day life. And so it is, if you can, it is very important to be able to take just an hour out of your week, a couple days out of your month to be engaged, to look into what's happening in your community and see what you can do, not even in a gun violence sense or preventing gun violence sense, but how can you donate to your local homeless shelter? How can you reach out to the people who need it most in your life that you're not necessarily, that you don't live with? Can you instigate a litter cleanup? Like, these are all things that pop into my mind as I'm driving home from work every day. Like, what can you do to establish deeper roots in your community to help the community tree grow higher? Because Lord knows there's a lot coming in to pollute that community tree. And we are the only ones who are looking out for that growth. So thank you all so much.